Hey everyone, my name is Natalie and welcome to my channel. I am a daycare owner and provider for over 20 years here in beautiful Park City, Utah. And I decided that I would start answering daycare owner questions. I find all of these questions on the internet, very accessible through Reddit, through Facebook, Google, you name it. There are endless amounts of questions, especially for new in-home daycare providers that want to start a business. And I'm here to answer any and all questions. 20 years of experience, a disclaimer. I am not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am just an owner that's been in the business for over 20 years and I've seen mostly everything. So let's get started. Oh, also, before I get started, these questions are verbatim and it'll pop up on the screen right here. And the typos aren't mine. It's just how I screenshotted the questions or copied and pasted the questions. And everything is anonymous. And if you like this channel, like and subscribe and share and comment down below if you have any answers to questions as a daycare owner yourself, or if you're a parent and you have a question regarding daycares, I am happy to answer those questions as well. So let's get started. Here we go. First question. Had a parent complaining about going to leave my daycare because I sometimes take 2 days off, sick, or appointments. I don't take vacations ever. Please tell me how many days off per year providers take. And that's the question. So, as a daycare provider, it's going to depend on what you're comfortable with. And I have to say that because if you want to take 2 weeks vacation, then take 2 weeks vacation and put it in your contract. But what I've noticed in this business, in particular in-home daycares, daycare owners, is there's a certain stigma about in-home daycare owners that they're just babysitters that roll out of bed with hair curlers and no makeup, and they're unprofessional and they just sit around eating bonbons, just watching kids and doing nothing. That is the stigma and that is the stereotype of an in-home provider. However, it's up to us to change that stigma. It's totally up to us to change that stigma, because if you are going to be that person that I just described, then of course you're going to have parents complaining if you dare to take off a sick day because you or your child is sick. Of course they're going to complain because you're just a babysitter and they expect you to be there you're their beck and call girl, basically. An in-home business as a business, you can take the time off because I'm sure that people take vacation time in their jobs. So why aren't we allowed to take time off? And I don't pose that as a complaining type question because I take 4 weeks vacation off. So personally, put it in your contract. You can take as much time as you want. You can add in sick days into your contract. Say, for example, you can say, I take 5 days of paid sick leave, 5 days throughout the year of paid sick leave. I may or may not use them, but if I do, that's it. It's paid sick leave. Vacation time, you put it into the price. And it depends on the owner themselves. If they don't have that confidence to put that in their contract, you're never going to get a day off. So that's what it seems like this poor woman, she doesn't have the confidence to put something in her contract and stick to it. And hope that answers that question. Next question. Cleanup time. If one child says they didn't make a mess, do you still get them to clean up? Or say, okay, because you didn't dump this bucket or whatever. I had one on Friday who refused to help clean because she didn't make the mess. She was in the room playing, but she says that she didn't make the mess. How would you handle a situation like this? Well, me, if you are over 2 years old and you know how to clean toys, then you're going to clean. Everyone is. I teach my babies how to clean, but I don't make them clean because they don't have the attention span, and it's They learn more when they see me doing it. And then they kind of come and help. And then that's how they learn. They learn through example. But if you have like kindergartners or 3 to 5 year olds in your program, damn straight they're going to clean up and they're going to help. And the way I would say is like, listen, you're the leader of children. You need to set the example for these littles. So you're going to help me clean and we're going to clean together. And if they try and talk back, be like, okay, then you can go over there and you're not playing with any toys. I'll clean up, but you're not going to play with any toys after. You're going to sit there and time out until I'm ready for you. Or you can get up and come help me clean and be a leader and set the example. Usually when I say that they're going to be the leader and that they set the example for the littler kids, I call them the leader of children. I said, do you want to be a leader of children? And they usually say yes. And I'm like, well, then you need to come help me clean. And they usually do. 99% of the time, they do. It's very rare that I've got a sassy 4-year-old that will tell me no. And I hope that answers your question. But you've got to be firm. Like, if you say you have to help me clean, you need to mean it. You can't just say it and then let them do whatever. If you say something, don't do that. Help me clean. Please help me. And they don't. And then you're like, okay, it's just too hard. That's usually what happens. And parents, I'm sure you can relate. If you're telling your child to do something and they refuse to do it, eventually they will wear you down and you just don't care anymore. And you're just like, screw it. I can't even deal. I'm too tired. So as a daycare provider, I stick to my guns and I'm like, nope, you're going to help me clean. And if you don't get to play toys for a certain amount of time. And I usually don't ever have to go that far. And I hope that answers that question. Okay, third question. How do you get parents to respect your sick policy and not always argue? I'm so frustrated. My daughter has terrible lungs and we get chronic infections. Anything other than snot, I ask the kids to stay home, but that never happens. And I always get backlash from the parents. I'm just extremely frustrated. Of all weeks, my daughter has a laser revision and I don't want her sick. And yet a family dropped off a girl sneezing, coughing, and snotty, and she never covers her mouth either. Okay, this one's kind of a detailed question, I would say. Let's go from the first part. How do you get parents to respect your sick policy and to not always argue? To stick to your guns and to say what you mean and mean what you say. And not let it go this time or that time or this time or that time. You need to be firm. And another problem with daycare providers, especially in-home daycare providers that have their own business, the stereotype is, once again, is that you're not worthy of being respected for whatever reason that is. And you know what? Me starting out my business at the beginning, I was just like that. I was exactly like that. Scared I was going to lose a parent, scared I was going to lose a daycare kid, because if I dared to say no or I dared to stick to my guns over something, I was so afraid of losing business and the client that I never stuck to my guns. And then eventually you start feeling crappy about yourself and you start to get resentful. And then you start resenting your job, and then you start resenting the parents, and then you start resenting yourself. And it's a whole cycle of crap. So the sooner you can rip off that Band-Aid, be uncomfortable, and say what you mean and mean what you say, the rest is cake. Seriously, I promise you. You just have to stick to your guns. I don't know what this person's sick policy is, but anything other than snot, I ask the kids to stay home. So, okay, kid has a runny nose, they can come to daycare. If they're coughing, they can't. If they sneezing, they can't. It works both ways, people. Parents have to go to work. And this is the advice I would give daycare owners, in-home daycare owners in particular. When you're making your sick policy, you need to decide what kind of a business you want to run. If you have a sickly child, you may have to have a no symptom policy And that means you're not going to get as many clients. And if you're constantly closing down because your child is sick, or you're constantly sending kids home that aren't legitimately sick, then you're going to lose business. But if you're prepared for that, by all means, that's your sick policy. However, my common sense approach to sick policy is this: if your child has a cold, it is what it is. I don't like it, but I'm not going to make you stay home, because the kids are going to get a cold anyway. It spreads before it even becomes a symptom. One sneeze before the runny nose start and the droplets are all over. Damage is done. Done. Might as well come in. And I just pray that I don't get sick. So that's one. Number two, if your child has a fever, you're not coming. If your child threw up the night before, they are not coming. And let me find out that they came and threw up the night before and they come to daycare and they barf in my house, I'm going to be mad, and I will let them know. I will be like, listen, why would you bring them when they have the stomach bug? Now you just exposed all the other kids. Stomach bug freaks me out. I'm trying to think if there's any other lethargic children. Daycare providers also know. I hate to tell you parents this, but daycare providers know when you've doped up your kid and you brought them to daycare. We know, because the kid's eyes are glazed over, they're lethargic, but they don't have a fever. We know. We know. And I have called them out before. Not since I've been home, because I have a wonderful group of parents, but back when I had my 2 hourly centers, I would call out parents big time. Being in home, you have a community. If you build a community, people respect what you do and you respect the parents right back, they will work with you. They will be the best parents. So to answer that question, I digressed. Of course I did. But to answer that question, you've got to decide what kind of sick policy you are, and you need to stick to your guns. And if they argue, then say, hey, this is it. If you don't like it, we may not be a good fit. And that's the end of it. And depending on that parent, they're either going to stay with you or they're going to leave. But you have to take that chance. You can't be afraid. If you run a good program, if you run a good daycare, a good program, you will not lack for clients, for daycare kids. And that is the end of episode number 2 of Daycare Owner Answers All Your Questions. If you have any comments, suggestions, advice, any rants, any questions, comment down below. Like and subscribe to my channel if you like what you see, and share it with other fellow daycare providers. And hopefully this helps. And I'm hoping, my goal is to upload 3 videos a week. And that will do it. See you later. Subscribe.